I watched Scrooged from 1988, a very loud, uneven, and strangely really unchristmassy movie. I would rate it a 4.5 out of 10. Didn't really care for it too much. Let's find out why. Scrooge is one of those movies that I really wanted to like more than I actually did. It's often held up as a clever modern take on, Dickens's A Christmas Carol. And with Bill Murray in the lead, I figured there had to be something there. I mean, I'm not a big fan of Bill Murray, but he's a big name, so must be something good about this movie, right? Unfortunately for me, this attempt at modernizing the story only works here and there. It never really rises above being a fairly mediocre comedy. To be clear, to be honest, Bill Murray does put in a good effort. I mean, he does what he can with what is given to him. His version of Frank Cross is cynical, selfish, and abrasive in a very 80s corporate way, which I kind of liked. Murray's presence was honestly one of the main reasons, well, like I said, I gave this movie a shot in the first place. But even so, the film never quite figures out what to do with him beyond letting him be really loud, sarcastic, and increasingly unhinged, which wasn't really fun to look at. The opening stretch is actually pretty decent, to be honest. Frank's dead former colleague showing up as a chain smoking, decaying ghost is a fun twist on Jacob Marley. And the ghost of Christmas past, well, rough, aggressive, and deliberately unpleasant. Well, that's genuinely interesting. Those early scenes feel sharp and cynical in a way that suits the setting of a ruthless TV executive. Up to that point, the movie is doing something different, and to be fair, it mostly works. I kinda enjoyed it. But once the ghost of Christmas present arrives, well, then everything just falls off a cliff. Instead of warmth, contrast, or even insight, we get a wacky, sadistic fairy who spends most of her screen time physically abusing Frank. That is supposed to be funny, I guess. The joke here is essentially that she's loud and violent and unpredictable, and that Frank is slowly losing his grip on reality. Now, for me, that never became funny, not even once. It just became exhausting. The movie leans hard into chaos at this point, and the humor starts to feel forced rather than clever. Frank's descent into madness is another problem. Watching him get more frantic, shout more, and behave increasingly erratically is clearly meant to be entertaining, but it didn't really land for me. I felt like the character development, no, it felt less like character development and more like a movie cranking up the volume because it felt to me like the movie didn't trust the story to carry itself. Now, by the time the Ghost of Christmas Future shows up, that momentum, all of it is gone. That ghost should be unsettling and meaningful, but here it feels oddly flat. And, the imagery is darker, sure, but emotionally, it didn't really do much for me. There are a few laughs sprinkled throughout the movie. Some of the lines land, some of the jokes land, some side moments work, and I can see why people enjoy certain scenes. But for me, they're too scattered to elevate the movie as a whole. For a film built around comedy, I was surprised by how often I was just waiting for it to move on, waiting for jokes to land. What really held it back for me, though, is that it never felt like a Christmas movie, which was a real letdown. Despite the holiday setting, Scrooge lacks that cozy, reflective, or even bittersweet Christmas feeling you expect from an adaptation of, Dickens' story. It's really cynical and loud and aggressive for most of its runtime. It rarely pauses long enough to let any warmth settle in. Even the emotional beats feel rushed and undercut by the jokes, even. The ending is a good example of that problem. Frank's big life speech is clearly meant to be heartfelt and cathartic, his full transformation laid bare in front of the audience. But instead of feeling sincere, it, it comes across as lunatic and disjointed, really. Murray goes all in, I give him that, but the scenes feel messy rather than moving. So for me, it was a letdown, especially after sitting through the chaos leading up to, this really. To its credit, Scrooge does have a solid concept, a few creative ideas, and moments where the modern setting genuinely fits Dickens's theme. but the execution, it's wildly uneven. The tone swings too hard, the humor doesn't always age that well, and the heart of the story gets buried under a lot of noise. So in the end, I put Scrooge around a 4.5, maybe even a 4. I really didn't care too much for it. It's not unwatchable, and I understand why it has fans, I guess, kinda. But for me, it's a moderate success at best. It's loud, it's messy, and like I said, oddly un-Christmas for a Christmas movie, really, for an adaptation about, a Christmas story. So it never really quite delivers the warmth, the humor, and the emotional payoff that I was hoping to get. Even with Bill Murray at the center of it, it didn't work too well for me. So that's my take on the movie. I hope you enjoyed my review. Hope it was helpful. Let me know what you think of the movie, and I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.